Well, welcome everyone. This is Dan Thompson, and this is part 2 of our continuing discussion on fees. In part 1, we talked about fees stealing as much as 70% of your total account value in retirement plans that just charge 3.5%. Even 1% in fees can cost as much as 26% of your total return. And at 2%, you're looking at over 45% of your account value getting eaten up by fees. You see, 1 or 2% doesn't sound that bad, but now that you know, it's huge. Now let me tell you what's going on with Wall Street and financial planners right now. There's a big push for all advisors to become what's called a fiduciary. You might want to watch my video on fiduciary versus broker for further information. As I was saying in part 1, a fiduciary is kind of a big word that means they're supposed to put your interest in front of theirs. A fiduciary is supposed to look out for you. Now look, all advisors, fiduciary or not, should be putting you first. I agree completely with that. I think all advisors should be trying to do the right thing for their clients. We should all be a fiduciary by nature, and it should be paramount and even natural in every advisor's mind to do the right thing. Unfortunately and sadly, it's not, and I get that. However, you're just never going to be able to legislate advisors to do the right thing. It's no different. You can't legislate that all advisors have brains and common sense either. In other words, just by becoming a fiduciary doesn't mean you suddenly are a financial genius. A fiduciary still may have really no clue what they're doing and may not be steering you in the right direction. But the litmus test now isn't if you're competent, it's only did they do their best. There's still a vast number of different opinions and philosophies on how to manage money. Very few advisors are alike. There are different specialties and expertise that one can have as well. No fiduciary can possibly know everything, so how will any fiduciary ever be able to do what's in your best interest unless they know everything about everything? It's like legislating that someone should fly, but no matter what the law says, man isn't going to fly. But there seems to be more to this fiduciary rule than meets the eye. I try to stay away from conspiracy theories, but it's hard not to see the conspiracy for what it really is. This fiduciary business is going to be a financial windfall and gangbusters for Wall Street and its advisors. Why? Because again, the fiduciaries are supposed to be compensated by fees. The new rules essentially want all advisors to be charging fees. Many advisors are going to be essentially forced into charging fees. But don't be too sad for them. Be sad for yourself. You now have seen how fees can play a devastating part in your future values, but it can be a huge moneymaker for the advisors and their firms. Is it really in your best interest to pay 2% in fees and basically lose almost half your potential account value? In other words, was it your best interest to lose 45% of your account value by paying 2% in fees over time? How do they justify 3 or 4% in 401ks? By the way, how have your funds been doing? We've had a pretty crazy market lately, yet I still don't see comparable returns in most people's mutual funds. Now, going back to Dalbar, 3.66% for equity mutual funds. Now take away the fee from that return. Is any fiduciary or advisor worth that kind of cost, the cost that I showed you in part 1? And if you're worried about the market taking a substantial dive, well, you'll not have to only watch your account values drop, but you get to pay fees in those years as well. That's right. Fees don't stop just because the market crashes. You can see now why Wall Street has no problem turning all financial advisors into fiduciaries. The firms and the advisors are going to line their pockets and get paid no matter what. Oh, and guess what? Like we said earlier, you take all the risk. Yep, you take 100% of the risk and give up anywhere from 25 to as much as 75% of all your gains. Now that seems fair. Does that sound like a fiduciary? You know, someone who has your best interest in mind? Now, you may already be paying fees. If so, it might be a good time to assess if you're getting what you paid for. When it comes to Wall Street, just follow the money. Fees, fees, fees. It's the flavor of the day. So let's end with this. Most mutual funds and money managers are compared to the S&P 500 index. It's also kind of commonly referred to as the market. Did you know that only about 4% of all the thousands of mutual funds out there beat the market? Did you know it's usually not the same 4% each year? Did you know that you could invest in the index yourself and do that for about 0.2% basis points? That means less than 0.5%. So why do I point that out? Because there's a good chance your advisor is somehow trying to manage your money in an attempt to at least get market returns or beat it. So why would you hire an advisor, especially for these kinds of fees? There are only two possible reasons. First, they have an amazing track record of beating the market. They are a Warren Buffett or a Charlie Munger and have consistently beat the market for the last 20 or 30 years. The only other reason might be because they have this extra sensory perception and they get you out of the market before it crashes and they protect all your profit. By the way, finding someone who can do that consistently for years and years is probably like finding a unicorn or Tinkerbell. Finding someone who can call the top of the market, then get out, extremely tough to do. Well, so that's it. If they're not earning a substantial return above the market, including their fees, what are you paying for? Active money management has proven to be profitable for the firm, not so good for you. Money under management, charging fees, again, it's the Wall Street way. The lure and the promise, but sadly, empty promises of greater returns. Well, now that you know how fees can and will affect your nest egg, you might want to reconsider who or where your money is invested. You certainly, at the very least, should understand all the fees and all the soft costs you're paying for the management skills that you're paying for. John Bogle, who's the founder of Vanguard Funds, by the way, who has very inexpensive index funds, has said for decades that active money management is the biggest waste of money. The truth is, advisors and money managers don't have crystal balls and they can't predict the future and they have no idea when the market's going to go up, down, sideways, or crash. They throw money at a bunch of different stocks, call it diversification, and cross their fingers that you'll keep your money there so they can keep collecting fees. You don't have to be like the other sheep and follow the crowd. Find alternative solutions, maybe safer, tax advantages places to store your capital and then become a smarter investor. There are certainly alternatives, but Wall Street and advisors aren't too excited for you to learn them. Well, as always, if you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'll do my best to answer them just as quick as I can. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope it was informative. And again, if you'd like a copy of our spreadsheet that calculates fees, let me know. I'll send it to you as well. Till next time, take care.